All right, welcome back for another session with Savvy Startup. My name is Tony. I'm with Advanced Tax Group. Super excited to be here with you guys to talk about another important component of starting up your own business. And as you know from some of our other videos, myself and JJ own and operate Advanced Tax Group, and we've partnered up with Tim and Imran when it comes to Savvy CFO, and combined, collectively, we're trying to get you information to effectively start up, organize, and run your business. Now, today, we're going to talk about an important concept around business licenses. Now, the idea of business license is kind of a big concept, and one that a lot of people don't fully understand. You know, for years, as we've worked with clients, we found many people have not gone through the proper channels to work directly with their local government, their state government, their federal government to get the proper licenses that they need for the particular business that they have. Now, when you think about getting a license, that's kind of a big concept. It can be overwhelming and daunting. You know, if you go back to when you were 16 years old, you got a driver's license. If you're in a profession that requires a license, a medical license, a law practice license, an accounting license, these seem like very big things to do. As a business owner, you're not required to go through a massive ordeal to get a license for your business. You don't have to go to years of college to open up a business and offer services or offer products to make money. However, there are requirements that will show up that force you as a business owner and require you to look within your local, state, federal government to identify the things that you do need to have in place to get the proper license to function as a business. And it's not a one size fits all. So we're going to talk a little bit about these business licenses today. Now, like I mentioned, when looking at a business license, you may need to get one with the state. You may need to get one locally, or you may be in a situation that it requires you to do both. Now, when looking at different licenses, one thing that you can consider is, in some of our other videos, we've talked about registering your business, selecting the type of business you want to be, whether it's an LLC or a partnership or a corporation. In that process, you're essentially getting a license to operate as a company, but what we're talking about today, this is you registering and identifying your business and figuring out what requirements are set up individually for your specific business in your specific area that allows you to then operate as a business owner. Because this is the way that cities and states and the government have a way to stay in touch with what businesses are out there, what they're doing, how they're operating, and who's allowed to do it. Because there needs to be a checks and balances out there when it comes to running businesses and how to do that. We don't want everybody to be able to just go out and run any kind of business. So getting the proper licensing, the proper documentation, and approval to run and operate your business in certain areas is going to be key. Now, things to consider when looking at getting a business license. Okay, first and foremost is where. The where of this consideration is, where do you personally live? And then, where is your business located? You see, geographically, licenses can apply in one area, and then it may not apply in another. So like, say, for example, let's say you live in a city or a county where you're running and operating a marketing business. Well, in that one city or county that you live in, they may require you to get one or multiple business licenses. But if you go 2 streets over and you enter a new city and a new county, even though you may only be 100 yards away from the other county line, you may not have to get those same business licenses or same permits. And it's the case for every type of business. Now, what's crazy is there are hundreds of different types of business licenses and requirements that are out there. And so knowing exactly which ones apply to you based off of your business and where you live are going to be important things to consider. So that location of where you live and where your business is going to be important. And one thing to consider is not every business is run in the same place as where you live. Many people are setting up businesses just out of their own home. Like we've talked about working from home, or in a startup, being able to run your business from your home location. Maybe you're running it out of a virtual office. Maybe you are getting an actual office space. But depending on where your business is located and where you perform that business and do business will determine what licenses you do need to secure. Okay? Now, the what to consider. Well, when looking at the type of license you're going to be required to get, this is where we actually start looking at, well, what are you selling? Who are you selling to? How are you selling those products or services? So it's like the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, the how of the products and services you're selling. All of that can determine what type of license you have. So like I'll give you an example. If I'm selling a food product, if I've created, maybe for example, my startup is honey, and I've started my own beehive, and I'm producing organic homemade honey with these bees. Well, I mean, there's some quality control that has to be considered. And being able to resell that consumable product requires a specific set of licenses to do that. Let's say I want to provide services and I want to provide maybe a massage service where I'm going to be entering someone's home or someone's place of business. And then I'm going to be, physically touching another human being. That may require a whole nother set of licenses. Same with the sell or the resell of tobacco, alcohol, firearms. These require very specific business licenses and permits to be able to resell these different types of goods. And the list goes on and on. So we can't break down all of them. But what I want to impose and impress upon you is your unique business, where you live and operate, and how you are selling those products will determine the specific set of one to multiple licenses you're going to have to secure. Now, you do want to look at the process of state versus city, or the combination of both. Now, the state may have a specific license that you're going to have to figure out that you need to get and apply for. But your local government may or may not have that same requirement, or vice versa. Okay, so you may have to get something locally as a business license that you don't have to get on the state level. But the general rule is apply for the business license in the state and the city you live or run your business in. And there are places that you can search. So businesslicenses.com is a great resource that you can utilize to actually search these businesses and search the business licenses that you're working with. Or you can work with whomever is helping you set up your business. So whether it's a local attorney, if you're doing it yourself, if it's us helping you with that process, that's where you can start searching these business licenses that you're going to be required to secure. Now, we've talked a lot about the who, the where, the why, the how. Let's talk about the different types of licenses that you may encounter. Now, the most common is a business operating license. It's just a general practice. This is going to be your general business license. Maybe it's the hair salon you're running out of your garage, or maybe it's the marketing agency you're starting up, or maybe it's a company that's reselling products. But ultimately, a general business license is going to be the typical license that you will want to secure with your local and state government. Okay, so that's going to be the most common, and is probably what just about everybody here will be facing when it comes down to that. Now, the question is what does your local government and state government require for this general business license and general operation practice? Another license or permit that you may want to consider is a seller's permit. Okay, now a seller's permit is really broken down into defined as just simply selling goods. Okay, if you're reselling or selling products, like maybe you're in a situation where you've invented a product and it's better than any other product out there. And if that's the case, good for you. But if you are manufacturing that product and then selling it to the general public, you may be required to get a seller's permit. And this seller's permit allows you to resell your products to the general public. Now, it may be something where you're buying someone else's product at wholesale prices and you're through arbitrage or some other means reselling it for a higher price to the general public. So this is something that a lot of people do when they're starting up a business. They may source products from overseas. Maybe they get products at cheaper rates directly from an overseas country. They ship them in. They put their own brand on it. They sell it through their website, or they sell it through, direct face-to-face interactions at conventions or swap meets or whatever you may be doing. You'll need a seller's permit to do that as well. And what that will also do is help you track what's being sold, also from a tax perspective. So that seller's permit is another thing that you may be looking at. Now, another license that you want to maybe consider, this is not a requirement, but it's also known as a doing business as, or DBA. Okay. This is your fictitious named it, but also, a DBA is something that you may want to consider, because we see a lot of clients use a DBA in a couple different examples. One is you've set up your initial business. Let's call it an LLC. And let's say it was, we set it up as, just as an example, Advanced Tax Group LLC. Well, let's say I wanted to maybe come up with a different name. I wanted to have a different brand name. Well, I've already registered Advanced Tax Group with the state government and the IRS with my EIN. But now I want to have maybe a different brand name for it. So I can file a fictitious name documentation to change it to, maybe I want to call it Elite Tax Services. Well, I can set it up as a DBA. So it would be Advanced Tax Group, official name, doing business as Elite Tax Services. So it's all combined under the same LLC, but it has a different brand name. So customers only see the new Elite Tax Services name when they visit maybe a new website or business cards. And so this fictitious name we're doing business as is not a requirement from a state or local government level, but it is an option that you can use through business licenses and things like that when considering if you needed a different brand name. Now, there are special permits. So if you're in the world of real estate, or if you're getting into development, this is where you start looking at special permits such as planning and zoning. So we have clients in this kind of an area where they will, they're going to, for example, buy a raw piece of land, and it's you, and the city classifies that land. They'll say you can only build, industrial buildings on this land. So the city has it set aside as only for industrial buildings. And so that's what it's zoned for. Well, you can submit special permits or zoning requests to change what the city is going to allow you to do with that land. But it does require you to submit those permits to change what the city already thinks they want for that land. Another example is if you're wanting to resell alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Now, I'm not saying get into that business, but this is the type of stuff that would fall under that special permits, because not everyone can just go out there and do that. We don't want that to be the case. We don't want a ton of people going out there and being able just to be able to resell some of these products that need a little bit more guidance and oversight. So these special permits require businesses that are trying to jump into some of these fields to have more oversight, to go through an approval process with the city and local government. And finally, industry permits. These are going to be more case specific. These are going to be things like when you have a niche, when it comes to maybe a plumber, that has to have special permits for plumbing, or an electrician, or a contractor, or medical professionals, things along those lines. When it comes to very unique services or industries, this is where you'll need to get very unique, specialized permits. And there's an extensive list of what these may be depending on the industry that you're in. So as you're starting your business and you think to yourself, what is my industry? What am I doing? And how is it different from just a general, business? That allows you to start to narrow down what some of these business licenses and permits may be. Now, you got to ask yourself, how do you get this license? Well, first and foremost, you have to have a business entity set up. And we've talked about that in some of our other lessons. If you haven't watched that lesson yet here in this Savvy Startup course, go watch that lesson. We can help you do that when it comes to forming an entity and securing your EIN. Okay, so you do have to have an entity and an EIN that will be part of the business license process. Then you need to research what those requirements are. Like, what is it about your business that is unique when it comes to getting permits and licenses set up? So understanding what those requirements are based off of where you live and what you do. Then it's a matter of, once you've identified, the 1, 2, 3 multiple permits that you're going to have to tap into, then you go through and actually apply for that license. Okay. Now the application process is going to be fairly unique for each one. I mean, you're going to have the general information that will be the same, but depending on what you're trying to accomplish based on in your business will determine the application that you fill out and how you fill that out. Okay? And so that's something that you can work with your local or state governments with when it comes to the licenses, or there are online services that you can tap into as well if you wanted to do it yourself. But then one thing that I also want to point out is you do need to renew accordingly. And not every business license has the same renewal timeframe or process. But each one, local and state, will have a renewal process that you will want to be aware of so you don't fall behind. So one thing that I always suggest is, once you get that license, set a reminder in your calendar or in your phone, even if it's a year out. When you renew today, I will always suggest to a client, set a reminder a year from now. So that reminder comes up, so you don't even have to think about it for 364 more days. Or maybe do it, for 10 months out. So you have a 2-month window to get that business license renewed. But ultimately, set a reminder for yourself for those renewals, because everyone will have a renewal on potentially different schedules. Now, this does wrap up this lesson on business licenses, but really, to summarize this, your business may be required to get 1 or more licenses. You may be required to get it in both state and local government capacities, and you will need to be aware of that renewal process and schedule. So do yourself a favor and set those reminders. Do the research on the ones that you need, because you don't want to find yourself in a situation to where you didn't get a license that you actually needed in running and operating this business. And again, my name is Tony with Advanced Tax Group. We're working with Savvy CFO, collectively trying to get you information through this program to help you be successful in your business. Reach out to us if you have any questions about any one of these topics through this course. Thanks so much.